Welcome back to my channel. So, for today's episode, we will be having another episode of my lit vlogs. So, this is a continuation of my lit vlog series, and for today's special video, we will be talking about my literary analysis in Miriama So Long a Letter. So yeah, I will be sharing to you my literary analysis, so I hope you stay tuned and learn something from it. So now I will be sharing to you my literary analysis in Miriama Select Fiction So Long a Letter. So in the first part, I did character analysis. The first character I analyzed was Ramatulai. She is the one who tells the story. She writes to her friend Aisatu after she was forced to be in a 40-day period of isolation and mourning after her husband died. The next character is Aisatu. She is a close childhood friend of Ramatulai, and the letters Ramatulai wrote was addressed to her. The third character is Modu. Modu is Ramatulai's husband. He is a union organizer and, like Ramatulai, engaged in his country's politics. At first, the two are very deeply in love, and they marry despite the protestations of Ramatulai's parents. The next character is Maudu. He is Aisatu's husband and Ramatulai's friend. He is a doctor by profession, and he came from a noble family, the Senegal's class of nobles. The next character is Benitu. Benitu is Modu's second wife. Before she married Modu, she was known to be a friend of Daba, one of Modu's child with Ramatulai. The next character is Lady Mother-in-law, Benitu's mother. She is Benitu's mother. She pushed her daughter to marry Modu for his riches. The next one is Auntie Nabu. She is Maudu's mother. She is of noble birth and is extremely conservative. She is appalled when Maudu decides to marry Aisatu. The next character is Nabu. She is Maudu's younger cousin and second wife. The next one is Dauda Dieng. He was Ramatulai's old suitor. He was an older and more established, financially stable man. Next one is Daba. She was the eldest daughter of Ramatulai and Modu. She was also the friend of Benitu, the woman who ruined her parents' relationship. The next one is Aisatu. Aisatu's namesake, Aisatu the second. She is Ramatulai's and Modu's daughter, and she was named after her mother's closest friend, Aisatu. Next character is Ibrahima Sal. He is Aisatu's second significant other, her husband-to-be who got her pregnant before marriage, and he is a father of their unborn child. He is a law student. The last is Tamsil. He is Modu's brother. He likes his brother's first wife not as a sister-in-law but as a woman. So the second part is where I did my plot analysis. So the first one I analyzed was the exposition. So Long a Letter begins with Ramatulai, a Senegalese woman living in Dakar, the country's capital. She decides to write a letter to her old friend Aisatu, who lives in America. The letter is occasioned by the sudden death of Modu, Ramatulai's estranged husband. In keeping with Muslim custom, Ramatulai must observe a mirasi, a 40-day period of isolation and mourning. Over the course of this period, she keeps a diary which is eventually intends to send to Aisatu. The second part of the plot is the writing action. Ramatulai goes on to reflect on her marriage to Modu. She cannot understand what led him to lose interest in her. Their first years together as sweethearts and then as a young married couple seemed hopeful. They married despite the protestations of Ramatulai's family, who saw Modu as something of a loaf. In her diary, she admits that they were right and wonders why, despite her education, she chose him over the more sensible option, Dao Diang, an older and more established financially stable man. The third part of my plot analysis is the conflict. So, Ramatulai begins by reflecting on the long funeral proceedings following Modu's death. Senegalese Muslim customs dictate that Ramatulai serve as a host to all the mourners and well-wishers, opening her house to them and providing them with food and drink. This strikes Ramatulai as a grave injustice, as Modu, in his final years, wanted nothing to do with her. The mourners virtually sack her house, and though they bring gifts, mostly banknotes, the most of them end up in the hands of Modu's second wife, Binitu, and her greedy mother, lady mother-in-law. The next part is the climax. So, Aisatu's marriage, like Ramatulai's, also disintegrated. Around the time that Ramatulai married Modu, Aisatu married Maudu, a medical student and overall model citizen. The two were greatly in love. However, Maudu is of noble birth, while Aisatu is merely the daughter of a goldsmith. Maudu's family, in particular his mother, Auntie Nabu, objected to the union. In an effort to undermine their marriage, Auntie Nabu traveled to her ancestral home and convinced her brother to relinquish one of his daughters, Auntie Nabu's namesake, to her care. Auntie Nabu proceeded to raise and preen young Nabu. Then when the girl was of proper age, Auntie Nabu begged Maudu to take young Nabu as his second wife. Maudu, fearing that his mother would become distressed and fall ill if he declined, agreed to her proposition. He assured Aisatu that he did not love young Nabu, but he also had children with her. Aisatu could not accept this and divorced him. She focused on her education, received a degree in diplomacy, and moved to America to work in the Senegalese embassy. Meanwhile, Ramatulai was enduring her own marital misfortune. Her daughter Daba befriended a girl named Binitu. Binitu spoke often of a sugar daddy, an older man who bought her clothes. And after a while, Binitu's family began to pressure her into leaving her education behind and marrying the man for his money. Binitu reluctantly agreed. Ramatulai was disappointed by this news, but not otherwise suspicious. Some days later, Modu's brother Tamsir and a local imam appeared at Ramatulai's house. Together, they informed her that Binitu's sugar daddy was in fact Ramatulai's husband Modu, and that Binitu would soon be her co-wife. Ramatulai was left heartbroken and effectively abandoned as Modu began a new life with Binitu. Despite this, she decided to remain married to Modu, accepting her fate as if it were a duty to fulfill. Her children protested, but she remained steadfast. The next one is the falling action. Now Modu has died, and Ramatulai must navigate the strange situation of being forced to mourn for a man who abandoned her. As her mercy draws to a close, she is approached by Tamsir, who announces that he will marry her. Ramatulai is deeply offended by his crass proposal and tells him off in front of Maudu and the imam. Later, Dauda Diang proposes to her, though he does so with considerably more tact than Tamsir. Ramatulai rejects him as well. She resolves to focus her efforts on raising her children, and thanks to the increasingly prevalent forces of modernity, Ramatulai's adolescent children become exposed to a host of new dangers from which she feels they must be protected. While playing baseball in the street, two of Ramatulai's sons are run over and injured by a wayward motorcycle. She catches three of her daughters smoking, and Aisatu's namesakes gets pregnant out of wedlock. Ramatulai responds to all of these crises with strength, equanimity, and poise. And lastly, the resolution. Ramatoulaye concludes her long letter by anticipating Aissatou's impending return to Senegal. She looks forward to seeing her friend and trusts that despite the physical changes they have endured, their friendship will be strong as ever. The next part of my literary analysis, I did point of view and style analysis. So, the novel So Long a Letter by Miriama was written in the first-person point of view. This novel is narrated through a letter written by the main character, having her childhood friend as the addressee. This makes the select fiction an epistolary novel. It utilizes in medias res as the story begins in the middle of the events. Ramatoulaye starts telling her story when her husband died and when she was forced to engage in a 40-day period of isolation and mourning as the story progresses. Ramatoulaye looks back in time to recall the events of her life, which gives us flashbacks. The next part of my literary analysis, I did universal theme analysis. So, it is abiding faith in Islam with feminism. Why? Because when the Senegalese Muslim custom made Ramatoulaye serve as a host to all the mourners and well-wishers on her husband's death, it made her open her house to them and provide them with food and drink despite the fact that in her late husband's years they were estranged. She began to struggle with abiding her faith in Islam and their customs with her feminism. Throughout the entire story or letter, Ramatoulaye recalls events in her life that led her to her current predicament and views. She recalls how her faith was tested and how she, as a devoted Muslim, allowed her husband to marry and still remain married to him despite their children's protests. This is also against her beliefs and morals as a woman, but she chose to remain married to his husband, seeing it as it was her duty to fulfill. Later on, despite her bad experiences with her marriage, Ramatoulaye decided to focus on raising her 12 offspring as they encounter modern challenges. This highlights the theme of motherhood, progress, and modernity as well. So that is the most important parts of my literary analysis. I also included the works cited, the one where I referred to my research and my analysis, and I also came up with my own literary reader's vitae. So guys, that was my literary analysis in Miriama Ba's So Long a Letter. I hope that you learned a lot from it and enjoyed listening to me sharing my literary analysis. I hope that will encourage you to do yours as well. So yeah, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this video.